Hey guys, and welcome to the first episode of Canada Unpacked. I am one of your hosts, Deandra, and your other host
Barbara.
is actually going to be our guest today. So, today's episode is going to cover Barbara's immigration story. And we just wanted to kind of give you guys a bit of a background on us while using it to help guide you on your own journeys. So, without further ado, let's just dive right in and hear a bit about Barbara's story. Thank you, Barbara, for being our first ever immigration story that we cover. And I'll get right into it. How did you come to Canada? What was your journey like at the start? Like, did you come to Canada as a student? Did you come as a PR? What started your journey here?
Yes. So I think I don't like sound or necessarily look like an immigrant. So I do get that question a lot, or they're like, you're not Canadian? Question mark. Like, I mean, I am now, but I didn't start that way. So I was born in Eastern Europe, and then my family actually first moved to the United States. So I do have some time, some childhood there. And then when we immigrated as a family, the process was that you literally phoned IRCC. It was pre-internet.
They answered the phone?
They answered the phone.
It's beautiful that does not happen in 2025.
They had a phone number and they answered it, and there was a human on the other end.
What? This is unheard of. Okay,
And you're just
great.
like, "Hello, I would like to immigrate to Canada."
I love
Hi.
this.
Like straight to the
Straight
chase.
to the source. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I want. And they're like, okay, great. And then you give them your mailing address, and they mailed you a package. You
Wow.
just had to like sit and wait for this like package to arrive. It came, you filled it out by hand, and then you mailed it back to them, and then you just like waited, and you just had no idea what's gonna happen,
Waiting
if it's
outcome.
gonna happen,
Yeah.
when it might happen. Like you just like waited. Um,
So I have a question. Like
Please.
right from the start, I have a question. So this package, was it a package for permanent residency
Yep.
or okay. So you could just go straight to PR. You weren't like you didn't have to go through like getting a work permit or getting a study permit or anything. You could just say, I want to come to Canada as a permanent resident. They send you the package, you fill it out and send it back.
Send him back. It's. I feel like it was maybe the early stages of like federal skilled worker, like what federal skilled
Mm,
worker is today, because that
yeah,
is like one of the programs where you don't have to have ever entered Canada
that's right.
to
Yeah.
apply.
Yeah.
So mailed it back, and then I'm getting the story from my mom. So my mom was like, every once in a while, we might get a letter in the mail asking for document XYZ.
Yeah.
We got it together, we mailed it back, and
Yeah.
then you wait. So it was this like back and forth mailing back letters, like long distance lovers.
And we love Canada.
Yeah, love you. Here's my certificate of education or whatever.
And
Um,
again, you guys were doing this from the United States at the time. Like you
yeah, we were
already moved from
physically.
Eastern Europe and you
Mhm.
were in the US. Okay.
Yeah, we were in the US, and then we're looking at immigrating to Canada for different things. Like my parents were young, they had two young kids, and they just, heard they had some like, not blood relatives, but like family friends that were in Canada, and just heard better things about their healthcare system for one,
Yeah.
and I don't know, like the safety, and so
Yeah.
just thinking about your kids, like wanting them to be safe and covered, health wise and school
Yeah.
and all of that. So,
Yeah.
so they were exploring it essentially.
Yeah.
Then the last step was an in-person interview. And I
Okay.
will say, like, from my parents' memory, like, at no point did they have to do a language test. But I feel maybe it's because they did an in-person interview. Like, that was mandatory.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had to do that. So they did that. And I always like to say my mom, so that you get the date of the interview and like
Yeah.
you got to show up. It was the day after Halloween,
Oh,
and she had two little kids who just ate
like
candy to
binged
their
on
heart's
sugar.
and we were just like running like so hyped up and she got us all dressed up, of course, like we were like in our Sunday best
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
And me and my brother were just like being like running around and like screaming 'cause we were like hyped up on the sugar.
You normal kids.
She was like, oh my God, they're not gonna let us in.
We're never gonna get to Canada now.
And then apparently the officer thought it was super funny and he actually had like a bowl of Halloween candy and gave it to me and my brother.
Oh my
So
gosh. So
sweet.
more
And
sugar in the mix.
yeah, more sugar. Like, oh, you know what these kids need?
A little bit more candy.
More candy. I mean, we were young. We obviously had no idea what was actually going on. We just like
Yeah.
our parents being like, behave, and us, our brains being like, oh my God, just ate like 10 chocolate bars.
I can't behave. I just want to run around and touch things.
Yeah, I just want to hang out with my brother.
How old were you?
I would have been 4.
Okay. And how old was your brother?
He would have been 6.
Okay. So just 2 years apart. Yeah, really young kids to like be doing a formal interview
Yeah,
process.
like government interview, like
And
best behavior. And I'm like
did
4
you
years old. Like, what is government?
right? Like what's a government? But question, did you have to be there? Like from talking to your mom about the journey, were were you required to be there as a kid?
That's such a good question. And I don't I feel like yes. Otherwise, she would have like,
Like,
given us to someone to watch for the
yeah,
few hours they went to the interview. So I feel like they probably wanted to see the whole family because in the end, we were all gonna get granted permanent residency if they approved us. They probably want to make sure the children like exist and are real, maybe.
yeah, yeah,
So I think so. Otherwise, why would they have taken us? I feel like it would have been easier if we weren't there.
yeah. We would have gotten through this a lot faster without you guys running around.
But my mom always says too, like she's like she thinks that they liked that they were a young family. And to
Yeah,
me that makes so much sense because you're coming with your kids. Like we got enrolled in school right away. I was able to start kindergarten because in Canada might be different by province, but you just had to turn 5 by the end of the calendar year.
right. Yeah,
And I had a December birthday. Um, versus in the States, you have to be 5 at the start of kindergarten. So I
yeah,
wouldn't have been able to start school for a whole year.
yeah.
Um, my mom actually didn't even know that. She said when she went to go enroll my brother in the elementary school in Canada, she brought me because I went everywhere with her.
Yeah,
And the like secretary was like, "What about this one?"
yeah.
And my mom like wasn't ready. She was like, "Oh no." And like
Oh,
I wanted
baby.
to go to school. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm ready. I'll go to school," like not knowing what it is. But I'm so grateful for that. Like I would have been, not behind, but it would have changed the trajectory of my life. It would have changed who I was friends with completely if she hadn't brought me that day when she
Yeah,
enrolled me because she didn't know that was the rule in Canada versus
right.
the United States.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it's so funny. These little things just change your life
yeah,
completely. Yeah.
exactly. Like, I
Um,
think I'm still reeling from the fact that, like, there was no preamble or anything. They're just like, hey, calling up, hey, IRCC, I want to be a permanent resident of Canada. Like,
you're
that's
like,
so
okay.
different from right now because honestly, and you know this as a consultant, you can barely get them on the phone to answer questions.
Oh my
So
gosh. And
it's
it's hard to get a
crazy.
human on the phone.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a
They,
lot of like pre-recorded, like,
yes.
yes, your application is in process.
Yeah.
Call again. Like
Yes.
nothing. Like it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I knew that calling you.
Yeah. Like it's insane that, that was the beginning of the process for them back in that, like, not back in the day. You're not
But
that old.
I know this was like 100 years ago. Like this was the 90s.
It feels like it was 100 years ago because they've changed the process so much times, right? But like 90s, like that was not that long ago, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I guess kind of now, but like not. we're not like, yeah, prehistoric, like the
Yeah,
industrial era or something, but like phones just came into
phones
existence.
are just invented. Oh gosh,
But
that's
it
so cool.
was pre-internet for sure.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
super cool actually. Like to hear like kind of a process prior to what we know now, right? Like something that feels less complex, but I'm sure to your parents at the time it felt like, oh, this is complex because how do we know where the application is? How do we, like, there wasn't
Mhm.
as much information readily available, right? Like you just like send it in and hope for the best, right?
Right? Yeah. And I mean, talking about nowadays, people are on YouTube, on Reddit, on
Mhm.
blogs, and they're, in DMs, in the comment section on social media,
Yeah,
getting immigration like advice
yeah,
information, I'll call it. It's not advice when it comes
yeah,
from a random comment.
yeah,
And so but they kind of piece together and be like, okay, well, this person said it took them 4 months to wait for this part, and so you kind of have a sense of getting other people's experiences a little bit. How legit they are is a different story, but back then you were just like, okay, like there's no one to talk to other than the humans
right.
that you know in person. Like you're not
Yeah,
talking to anyone on the internet, essentially.
yeah. Yeah, like
So,
there's an element of like commiseration that we have now that wouldn't have been there before, right?
yes. Yeah, only I think they chatted with some people who had done the process, like
Yeah,
friends of friends or family friends kind of thing. But
yeah,
that was like a handful of people, and it would have all been different as well.
yeah,
So it was a very much sit and wait,
yeah,
and that was it.
yeah.
My mom does remember there being a point system, which I find so
That's
interesting
interesting. Yeah, that
because
is really
like
interesting.
nowadays, 2025, it's all about the points. Like
Yeah,
everything has a point system. Different
hmm,
programs have different point systems. Like
yes,
it really comes down to it kind of feels a bit icky sometimes, like you're a number only,
yeah, yeah,
but it just kind of is what it is.
yeah.
But she remembers there being a point system, and in particular, education. And like she's just I feel like there was probably age points back then too, only because she kept saying like they liked that we were a young
Young
family,
family.
so they
Yeah,
probably liked that they were just young in
yeah.
general.
And when you think about the government perspective of it, it's that there's a few factors at play there when it comes to age. It's like the younger you are when you're immigrating, the more tax paying years we get out of you, right? The more
Mm-hmm.
like years in the workforce we get out of you, all of that stuff. So, I mean, they're still prioritizing it for sure, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously in the CRS system, like with Express Entry, you get more points the younger you are. So they're still doing it. It's just like it's not in the background anymore. They're like it's right out there in front that
Yeah.
hey, we really want younger people, right?
Yes.
Um, so that's interesting that I think what we're seeing is again stuff moving from the background to the forefront, and maybe it's just to like take stuff off of officers' plates. I don't know. Because look at it, we're calculating our own points per se.
Yeah.
Like we're going online, we're, using the CRS calculator and putting in our own factors rather than the officer having to do that at the end,
Yes.
like when they get the application, right? So we're
Yeah.
pre-qualifying ourselves rather than putting that on the officer. So that's super interesting, seeing the difference in that process from the 90s to now, right?
Yeah. 90s to now. 90s.
Best era for music and maybe best era for immigration. Just saying.
Maybe if you like just waiting around. I guess that's the positive we have. Now, I want to say like the negative is definitely the fact that most things are invitation only.
Yes. Yeah.
Fact it was just like, oh, just apply.
You
And then now it's
qualify.
like, tell us you're interested and we'll think about inviting you.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
vibe now.
Like, yeah.
But Back then it was very like sit and wait. Now that there's some sense of processing times. They're not amazing, but they exist.
Yeah.
And there's different trackers as well. Again, not amazing, but they exist. They've been
Yeah.
implemented, and it's just a little bit more efficient for the government as well. Instead of just like, think of an officer sitting at his desk, his or her desk, and just like going through literal stacks of paper.
Yeah.
Versus
Exactly.
now, when they get an application to process, they know, okay, they, had to make a profile, they had to be invited, they were told specifically what to provide, and et
Yeah.
cetera. So it's like we're almost going just more efficient.
Yeah. We've done most of the applicant does most of the legwork for them. So they're just verifying at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if something's off, they're like, "Oh, try again."
Yeah.
Right back to you,
Yeah.
returned application,
Oh yeah.
which
Well, that's
is
definitely
rough.
the climate now, right? Like
Hmm.
back to you. Like
Yeah.
back to you, Barbara.
Yeah, you didn't do it right. Please try again. Like they're not
Yeah.
like, oh, dear so and so, please
Mhm.
provide me a copy of your master's
Exactly.
degree. You forgot to put it in there. It's
Yeah.
like you
It's a
didn't put your
simple
master's
thing.
degree.
Refused.
Cancel immediate. No,
Refused. Go back to the drawing board.
back of the line. Whereas it seemed to be like bit of more of a conversation. Like they'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, hey, mom and
Yeah.
dad, you put the like, give me this and this." And they're like, "Okay, here you go." And yeah, there was a lot of back and forth. And
Yeah.
now it's very much it's up to the applicant. The onus is on the applicant to
Yeah.
prepare a perfect application for
Mm-hmm.
the officer to be able to, process it, not in one
Yeah.
sitting, but in one go. And if anything kind of like stalls their processing, like it's missing or it's wrong or it's outdated,
Yeah.
they're just like, all right, wrap that up, throw it back to you onto the next one.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important right now that you do not miss a step. You go through that document checklist as many times as you need to. You go through your document package as many times as you need to.
Mm-hmm.
But you can, like in 2025, you cannot afford to make a mistake with your application.
No,
Like,
those invitations to apply are precious,
hmm
absolutely precious. Yeah.
they're like that golden ticket in Willy Wonka.
Yeah,
Like,
like
where only a few.
Like literally though, like there literally are only a few. Like they cut
Yeah.
them every
Yeah.
calendar year. It
Hmm.
doesn't roll over. Like they're
Yeah.
gonna hit a
That's it.
quota this year and that's it.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it, it's so hard. Especially now the category based draws that happen only
Mm,
like once or twice a year.
yeah. Like, you got to
Whew.
be ready. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what people are super excited, like for instance with the category based straws where they added like ECEs and
And teachers.
cooks and all of these
Mhm.
occupations that were not historically there that have now become priority and in demand. People are super excited about them, but I think we're underestimating, we're not placing enough importance on the immigration levels, right? They're not going to accept everyone. They know that there's a ton of people out there that are going to try and qualify under like the knock for cooks. We know that there's a ton of people that are going to try to qualify under what seems like low hanging fruit knocks,
Mhm.
but you got to be ready and you got to be able to back up what you say. So
Yes. Yeah.
it's going to be, I think those category based draws are going to be a little bit trickier than people think on the surface.
Yeah, they're an opportunity. They're
Yeah.
not a guarantee.
Yeah. They're not a giveaway.
Yeah, and I think
Like,
that's been a confusing thing, especially with the occupations that were added. People are like, "Oh,
mhm.
I'm a teacher. I
Yeah.
can get PR. Great." And it's like, well, you now have, it's basically a door has opened
Yeah.
for that. Like, teachers could always come for permanent residency. They would just have to go to like a standard skilled worker program.
Yeah.
But now they're like specifically targeting them. So you basically got a few extra chances to
Yeah.
get it, but it's not a 100% you're going to get it. But but like it's something to still take advantage of, but
Yeah.
understand that there's just so many stages to the process now. It's not a
It is.
hello, I'd like to apply.
Hi,
And
I'd
you're like,
like to
okay,
apply.
cool, we'll take it.
But that's a great way to bring us back to your story, right? So, what, like, tell me more. What did your parents do? Like, what brought, I mean, we know what brought them over to the United States and made them interested in Canada, like just safety and opportunities for your small family at the time. But
Yeah.
like, what did they do in terms of work? Like, what did they see in Canada that aligned with those work
Kind of goals
that
and
skill set? Yeah, work goal,
values.
like career goals and skill sets that they already had. Like, what did they see in Canada then?
Yeah. Every time I ask them, it always kind of comes back to the kids. I mean, that's if you have children, like, yeah, you're kind of living for your children, thinking about their future, thinking about them constantly and their safety. So that was definitely a big element.
Yeah,
They were so once they were approved, really similar process nowadays if you're outside Canada, where you get that confirmation of permanent residence, that corp document, and it has a deadline from when you need to land in
right.
Canada. Like physically, just you need to just physically enter
To get
Canada.
here. Yeah.
Um, we entered on the day before it expired.
I love
Which is
that.
like just, I don't know, really on brand for my parents. But I think, not that they weren't, grateful for it. It was like they kind of were exploring and thinking about it even then. I mean, at that point, they had been already in the States for a while and had some like, roots and establishment. So it would have
Yeah.
been like starting over again, essentially. But yeah, I think it was just that pull of, well, like we think the kids might have
Do better here.
different
Yeah.
opportunities, yeah, in
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah.
Um, so we packed up in a U-Haul and drove over because we were living in Washington.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was drivable to come over, and yeah, in terms of like economic opportunity, my parents started businesses in Canada. So
Yeah.
they've always been in like food service. So they've
Yeah.
had different like restaurants, cafes, bakeries.
Yeah.
Um, and that was what they did. They wanted to be like self-employed and support themselves. So yeah,
Yeah.
I, went to school, and then after school I would go to the restaurant and sit in the back and
Help
like do my
out. Yeah.
homework,
Yeah.
read
Yeah.
Harry Potter,
I love it.
um, learned how to cook. Yeah, it was really nice. Like I loved it. Like I'm super close with my brother. Like we were always together. We were always with our parents. The whole
Yeah.
family's really tight. And then in Canada, my parents had two more children. So I have two sisters now. They're full Canadian, were born here and everything.
Yeah.
But they were able to benefit from the EU passport. So we all hold EU and Canadian passports
Okay.
at this time. So
Amazing.
yeah, I think that, and to this day, my parents run businesses themselves. They got more into like property management,
Yeah.
because we're BC, so lots of tourism.
Yeah.
There's a big tourism sector in British Columbia, um, and yeah, I still see them like almost every day. We like live in the same town.
Yeah.
It's so nice. My sisters too, and yeah, it definitely we're very close, and I feel like I don't want to, is it trauma bonding? I don't know. Like it's just, you
Trauma
know,
bond.
we had each other, and yeah, that's what we had. And it definitely, it worked in our favor. We're extremely close, and we were always together.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I love that I had the kind of three different country childhoods. Like really early, it was Eastern Europe, and then I have the experiences in the United States.
Yeah.
So, it gives me a sense of like their culture and their practices and things. And I do go to the States often. My brother actually chose to live in the United States now
Oh,
as an adult. So I go
yeah.
and visit him.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's been really nice. It's been very beneficial for career. And then it was nice to have that kind of like rich diversity. I know some
Yeah.
people are born and raised and lived in like the one town, right, until they're an adult,
Yeah.
which is very
That's good. That's good.
different. But yeah, so that was my story. That's my immigration story. And so yeah, similarities to today, like we mentioned, definitely the point system.
Hmm.
Um, some element of that,
Yeah.
particularly age and education, which are still like two of like the strongest
The
factors, I would
strongest
say,
factor.
in
Yeah.
today when determining someone's eligibility.
Hmm.
Um, And then, yeah, the difference is being the fact that it was paper and phone. Now
Paper
everything's
and
online,
phone.
paper and landline. Um, everything's online, but also I feel like the online, like when I started my career as an RCIC, everything was still on paper
It was still
almost.
paper. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I remember that too.
Like
Like,
it took them a while to get off the paper.
oh yeah, it took them COVID to get off of paper, right?
Yeah,
Like
COVID was the kick.
COVID is what really like like turned that knob to like, okay, we got to modernize things a bit more, because I can tell you that even when I applied for citizenship, it was on paper.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Completely on paper. Like the online application is honestly pretty brand new.
Yeah, yeah, it's really new because even when they wheeled that out, it was like only these people can do it. Like they kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
slowly introduced it, and even now, I think there's some criteria where
Yeah.
you can do it online, or if you are, in this section, you have to do it
You
by
have to do
paper. And
paper. Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, if I compare, my career, my day-to-day work life now compared to when I started my RCIC career, like I was touching paper all the time, like almost all my
Mhm.
applications, and
Yeah.
now I haven't touched paper at all, like at all.
It's
I
all
almost
in the
miss it.
portal.
I'm like, ugh, I'm staring at my screen all day. Yuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really like it really highlights not only how IRCC processes have changed over the years, but also how consultants work too, right? Because, you know, we and I think some people still kind of hold that view that we are like like people who complete documents for them, but that's not the essence of our role. Our role is to interpret the law for you, right? To help you navigate the system, because we understand the law and the regulations and everything that governs immigration, and we help you strategize. But back in the day, it was that plus, yeah, we got to touch that paper and fill out forms too.
Yes, it's just form filling.
Yeah,
I'm sure there was strategy before as well, but it almost feels like maybe there wasn't.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like our industry has boomed in the past decade because of they keep introducing new programs and
Yes.
shifting things and changing things. So,
Yeah.
I have people who like come to Canada on a permit,
Yeah.
something temporary. They meet some people or live with some people and they go, "Oh, my roommate did this. I'm just going to copy him." And it's
Right.
like, no, that
No,
will not work anymore. Like
not the
it's no
same.
longer one package that everyone fills out and you just
Yeah.
wait and see. It's like there's so much strategy. There's so many programs. They
Yeah.
all have different criteria,
Mhm.
different point systems, and a
Yep.
lot of them are by invitation only. So you can't
Yeah.
just be like, oh, at the end of my work permit, I'll just do what so and so did. Um, that program might not even exist anymore, like that too. Like things change and reshuffle, and so there's just so much strategy to what we do, and I really feel that's our value is the
Yeah.
strategizing,
Yeah.
not really the form filling.
Not the form filling so much. The forms
So
are,
much.
straightforward, and the applicant knows their information better than we do, right? Like, so I think that has been one of the one of the bigger changes too.
Mhm.
But here's my question to you, like just kind of capping off your immigration journey, right? How long did it take? Because processing times are what all of our clients want to know, right? Like when you and your parents immigrated, it was a lot of you said, like you mentioned that it was a lot of we send it in, they ask us for information, we send more in. But how long did that process look? Was it like 6 months? Was it a year? Was it 2 years? What, like, how long did it take?
So long ago now, it's probably a bit of a blur to my parents. I want to say it was like a year, like because I was still quite
Okay.
young when we came in.
Yeah.
Um, So it was probably around a year, which is like very reasonable.
Yeah.
I would feel, especially in light of, some programs we have existing today that are online that should be more efficient are like 2 years.
Yeah.
So it was just
Yeah.
really confusing to me. It was like, why?
I think the same thing. I think the exact same thing. I'm like, how come the processing times were so much less years ago when there was less? applications online. Like when we
Yeah.
were applying by paper, when we were doing all of these, like really, like, especially right now, these really outdated things
Like
to
more
apply.
time consuming. Yeah, it was less
Yeah.
efficient and yet
Yeah.
it was more efficient. You
Yeah.
know?
Processing times were way, way less, like way, way less time. So I, and I think that's one of the things, that's one of the questions I get asked the most with
Mhm.
clients, right? Like they're
How
like,
long?
well, okay, how long is it going to take? And really, we can give them the guidelines from the IRCC website, but it really depends,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Like that's unfortunately to all our listeners, like we don't have any more information than you do in terms of processing times, right? Like
Yeah.
IRCC publishes the same information about processing times to us, and it really just depends on your application.
Yes, yeah, there's definitely an element of preparing the best application possible. It does help a little bit for sure.
Yeah,
It can minimize any, maybe request letters or risk of returning and starting over. So there's
yeah,
certainly an element of that. But also the strategy where, we can ensure that you have status while you're waiting for PR.
that's right.
Right? Like life isn't over because you don't have your PR, right? If we can, maintain your status, you have ability to work, ability to access healthcare, children can attend school as long as one parent has that status. So
Yeah,
you can still live your life and just enjoy your day-to-day life, right?
yeah,
You don't want to be in pain for like a year while you wait for
yeah,
PR and it's like PR or
yeah,
nothing. It's like, well, the PR will come,
yeah,
you just gotta wait it out. And
yeah.
yeah, it's a little bit like, I don't know, maybe a different conversation, but like people just like want things so quickly now. They want that like
They
instant
do.
gratification.
It,
It's like
yeah,
it
yeah.
will take time.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I give my clients too is that hey, things are going to take time. Like what and I'm sure you have this as well when you do consultations, but I like that's one of the first questions I ask them like what are your goals, your immigration goals and what timeline is in your head? Because what I want to do first is reset us to reality
Hmm.
and then let's strategize, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's bring this to the point of like we're all aligned and this is realistic based on what you need to happen. But but we got to keep in mind that IRCC is not going to speed up because you feel like you need to be in Canada in 6 months, right?
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
all depends. It depends on what programs you qualify for, that you're eligible for. It depends on like how fast you can get things done. Like I've had tons of people come to me recently that have not done the language test yet, right? That haven't had their educational credentials assessed. And those things take time. We know, especially with educational credentials, there's a backlog right now and it's taking a few months where before it used to just take a few weeks, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so it's those types of things. Like um, I think that is something that's transcended, the time like the 90s when your parents and your family applied. That we kind of have to think about what timelines we're looking at and make that align with what IRCC processing times are.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here for. And that's what people come to us for, to get a bit more like feasibility and, realism into their idea of when they will be able to immigrate.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
sure.
Yeah, and helps you
But
prepare, right? Helps you
yeah.
prepare yourself mentally for the journey.
Yes. Oh, it's such a mental game for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because boy, the anxiety while you're waiting is crazy. Like even if you put a perfect application in front of an officer, you're just like, oh my God, what if they refuse it? What if like there's this one thing? What if my name is the same as somebody who did something bad and they confuse it and then I get rejected? Like these are like at least me, I know my brain goes to the extreme case for things. So I can't imagine like people who are submitting their applications now. I can't imagine the things they think about, right? But the anxiety is like next level while
Next
you're waiting.
level. Well, that's why, yeah, the first time I heard this story from my mom, I was like, you called and then you waited? Like, what do you mean? What do you
What does
mean?
that even mean? And a human answered?
Uh, what do you mean? So yeah, just taking us back to our roots of patience,
Yeah.
just, be calm, be organized, do your best, and then it's just a patience game.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that is my story. That is my 90s immigration story which, on surface level, it's like, wow, that's so different than now. And it's like, well, there's actually quite a few parallels actually,
Yeah.
to even now. And it's just, yeah, that
Yeah.
story of an immigrant family,
Hmm.
having this, you know, dream. Dream is like, it's almost like you don't want to call it a dream. It's like, oh, an idea. I have an
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
What if we lived in Canada?
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe
Exactly.
throwing it out there.
Just throwing
And
it out there.
made it happen. Made it happen with, working, hustling, because they were immigrants in the US as well. Like during that time, they were working hard. They had two kids to take care of. They both were working multiple jobs. So, and they still made it work. Like, they still were able to prep all the immigration applications. The things our parents do for us. Like,
Yeah. Honestly.
give it up for them.
Honestly. Thank goodness for like parents, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, parents. My
Shout
life
out to
would have
Barbara's parents.
shout out. My life would have just been so different. And it wouldn't, I
Mm.
don't, I can't say like, oh, it would have been bad or it would have been terrible. It's like it would just been so
Different.
different. It
Yeah.
just so different. So it's just those little choices you make and, having an idea of, what do you want out of life? What do you want your life to look like? Um,
Yeah.
and taking action, right?
Yeah.
Time is going to go by no matter what. So if this is a goal of yours, pursue it. Like a
Yeah.
year is going to go by no matter what, whether you put your PR in or not. So
Yeah.
if that's a goal, you might as well work towards your goal.
Might as well work towards it. And I
Mm.
think one of the other things that draws that parallel between your story and some of our listeners, well, not some. I'm going to reach and say all of our listeners, right? If you're if you have the idea of Canadian immigration, it takes courage, right?
Mm.
Like it takes courage to take that first step, to take that first step and research and see what you need to do to come to Canada. It takes courage to reach out to a consultant or a lawyer and say, "Hey, I need help." Like
Yes.
I'm I kind of understand and I kind of don't. I need some help. It takes courage, and I think that is one of the biggest similarities we can like highlight here, right? That your parents had that idea and they took a courageous first step. And I know from my journey, same thing. And I'm sure all of our listeners can relate that, you know, it took a little bit of, oh, okay, let go of the anxiety and just do that one first thing. So
Yeah. Just do it.
kudos to everyone that has taken the courageous first step.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got this. You got
Yeah.
this. So thank you so much for listening. And next episode, we're going to dive into Deandra's story, which I'm so excited to hear. I literally can't
Oh,
wait.
yeah, it's gonna be, you know,
Be juicy.
it's gonna be juicy and it's gonna be a little bit interesting because, you know that part when you said it was on brand for your parents to like show up on the day before the expiration of
Yeah.
the,
They're like, okay, I guess we'll become Canadian.
yeah, yeah. So I got something similar like smushed in my story too. So watch out for episode 2 with my immigration story. We're gonna have lots of laughs and lots of like, oh my God, did you really do that? And I would love to just thank you, Barbara, for just like sharing your story because I think it's an interesting perspective to hear it from like, the retelling from your mom, but even
Yeah.
just like the snippets that you remembered as a little kid and everything. I think that's such an interesting perspective. So thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing your story as we, cap off this first episode. And
Mhm.
we want to just encourage you guys too to share your stories. Um, we'll give you all of our information, and if you wanna send us your story, we would love to feature it on the podcast. So just let us know.
Yeah. Reach out. Thank you. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.